Welcome to students of COIS 20024, otherwise known as Systems Management Overview or SMO. This is a short tutorial for you to assist you to unpack especially Assignment 1, but we'll also talk briefly about Assignment 2. My name is Julia. I'm here on the Sydney campus, but we welcome all students from all campuses right around Australia and to distance and online students too. Welcome, and let's get started. How can you start your SMO Assignment 1? If you feel like this, hopefully you won't in about 15 or 20 minutes. Let's begin. As you may know, Assignments 1 and 2 for SMO are linked together. They're both based on a case study. They both require you to do research and will teach you overall about IS and IT. So let's look now at Task 1. Task 1 is simply to find research that can help you to answer those questions in the case study. You don't need to answer them yet, but you need to find research that can answer those questions and prove that it can answer those questions. That's the task. So you can consider it a foundation for Task 2, where you'll use that information you've found from Task 1. So, what do you get out of it? Other than completing this assessment, well, fortunately there are a few benefits for you. Successfully completing Task 1 is likely to lead to success in Task 2 because you've already located a lot of research and information that you'll be able to call on to answer those questions in Task 2. It's going to improve your research skills and also going to teach you how to use research once you've found it. Overall, you're going to learn a bit more from your fields. Okay, so how do you begin this task? And let's look at Task 1 or Assessment Item 1. As per any assessment task, you need to read that task thoroughly. What is asked of you? What are you expected to do? And we know already that you need to locate or find research that can help to answer the case study questions. As we said, you don't need to answer them yet, but find information that can answer them. Because both assignments 1 and 2 are based on a case study, you'll need to read that case study many times. So hopefully you have done that and you've highlighted sections and underlined sections and created some little links back to information you remember, and perhaps you can go back to it when you're doing your research. So you should become very familiar with that case study, read it several times, and be able to summarize the whole case study for someone else. Be ready to explain what the case study is about and what the issues are in that case study. All case studies are real life or real workplace situations, generally with issues or problems that need to be addressed or solved. And that's certainly the case with this case study. So once you've read the case study many times, you will automatically be identifying those issues, perhaps highlighting or underlining them. Next, you're going to read the questions at the end of the case study because, as we said, the research you find will help you to answer those questions, and Assignment 2 will be answering those questions. After doing all of that, you can start to think about your research terms. In other words, what words or combinations of words are you going to use to try and locate that information that will help you to answer those questions. And after all of that, you're ready to start your research, which we are now. So, how do you start researching? Hopefully you're familiar with the CQUniversity's library homepage, and we're going to start there with the Discover It mega database, and we're going to search for an article. And I've already thought of some research terms, so let's enter them now. Small business and information systems, and let's see how many articles we can find. We might want to narrow the scope of this search after, because as you'll see, we're going to probably get thousands and thousands of hits, and we have 23,000 in fact. So let's limit this search, and you should be doing this in your research as well, to peer-reviewed journals, not books and everything else available. And because we're talking about information systems and IT, 1895 might be slightly out of date. So for the purpose of this, let's go to 2003. This date might in fact be too old for this assessment, so keep that in mind. Okay, let's see how many searches or hits we have now. From 23,000 to 6,000. Okay, that's a bit better. I still don't want to read 6,000 journal articles though, but let's have a look and see if we can find anything that seems relevant. And number 7 seems relevant, about transparency and information systems. So let's click on that and see what kind of information is contained there. We can have a look at the abstract, and it does seem quite relevant. It's quite related to our case study, which is a small business. This article is talking about how when businesses start out, they rely on information systems, so on. So yeah, this sounds really good. Let's have a look at the full journal article and see if there's some information that might help us to answer those questions. So I've scanned this and determined that it is indeed a useful article. So I'm going to show you how we can use information from this article in just a minute. But before doing so, there's some useful icons on the side here. Once you have located research you want to use and keep, you can email it to yourself. You can save it by adding to a folder. If you do so, please title it something other than the title it's given, which will be a combination of numbers. You might save it according to the title of the article. And really helpfully here is a Cite button. So if we click on this, it's going to show you how to refer to that journal article. And as we know, for this and most assignments at CQUniversity, we're using Harvard referencing. Perfect. So here I have the way that I'm going to refer to this article at the very end of my paper in my reference list. So if you ever see this Cite button, that's really, really useful. So we know how to refer to it at the end of our paper or assignment, but how do we refer to those ideas from this article in text? Let's move to that now and talk a bit about paraphrasing. How do we paraphrase? I want to use the ideas from that journal article. Many students falsely believe that paraphrasing is cut and pasting whole sections and changing 2 words. This is not paraphrasing, this is copying or cheating, and it's not permitted at university, and it's certainly not paraphrasing. So we need to change our thinking around that and instead think about paraphrasing as choosing 2 terms or 2 words or 2 ideas and writing the rest in your writing style, in your words. And then of course you're going to add an in-text reference. And in text, when we refer to that same journal article that appears in our reference list, you simply need surname and year, just those 2 things. So let's have a look at an example now. I've chosen some ideas I really like from that journal article we just saw, and I'm going to write a paragraph. So the 2 ideas I found really useful in that journal article were firstly about internal transparency and how that can be compromised during the implementation phase, and secondly the fact that that leads to difficulty. So you can see my paragraph below. I've focused on communication, and I've said it's important to consider communication during the implementation phase. I have my authors' names here in the sentence, and I have the year here, and then I have their ideas here, but they're in my words, so it's a paraphrase and not a direct quote. And I finish with a short evaluative sentence here. So you can see I've used the ideas of those authors, and I believe this can help me to address one of those questions in the case study questions at the end. So this is not the only way that I can refer to the idea of someone else, so I'll give you a few more examples here. I've used example 3. You can see that I had the author's name in the sentence, and I wrote in full the word and I simply had the year in brackets and the idea following. It is also possible to have just the idea of those authors in my words. For example, it's important to think about transparency within the business during implementation because it could be compromised, and I could have then the authors' names and year in brackets. You can see if I have an and in the bracket here, it's represented by the symbol when it's in the bracket, whereas it's written in full when it's outside the bracket. So we can have just the idea and then name and year, or as in example 2, we can use according to the author's names and just the year in the bracket. And finally, I can use a reporting verb like the authors argue, state, claim, suggest, remind, and so on. It's really important to use a combination of those 3 styles of in-text referencing so that you don't get bored writing it and no one gets bored reading it. So that's how we do in-text referencing for the information that we find, which is really useful. Let's move now to the way you can structure each entry in assignment 1. As you know, you're required to find 6 sources, and half of them need to be academic. We've already found one, which was very useful. I'm going to divide my entry for this one source into 2 paragraphs. You don't have to do this, it's a suggestion. You can always have simply 1 paragraph for each journal entry or each source. However, I believe it's quite useful to have 2. The first short paragraph is going to summarize that article or that source. And you saw the journal article we looked at before was about the implementation phase and about communication and transparency. So I would mention all of that in the first paragraph. And in the second paragraph, I'm going to justify why I've selected that source. So I might say something like, the company or the business called, and I can use their name, needs to consider the implementation phase and communication and organization during that phase, and this article will assist in that. So you can see here now a sample of an assignment from SMO from many years ago, and it indeed has this structure, this 2-paragraph structure, the first summarizing and the second using these kind of useful phrases. The business needs to do A, and the journal article B can assist with this. So it's quite a logical and simple way to structure each of your entries for assignment 1. Of course, following writing about those 6 entries, you need a reference list. You've already seen how to write in full 1 entry from your reference list, which was done pretty easily by clicking the Cite button on the right-hand side of the database. Your reference list will be on a new page at the end of this assessment task. It'll be in alphabetical order, of course using the author's surname, and it will follow the Harvard referencing used at CQUniversity. The full Harvard referencing guide is available online through the library. It's a really long document, but it has samples of every possible source you may want to use. Of course, journal articles, but also websites, and for other fields or domains, it also has government reports and any other possible source. So become familiar with this guide. You're going to need it in this course and indeed every other course. You can see here the reference that we've used by Street and Meister. You can see the initials that are used there as well. That wasn't used in text. Don't forget, in text, in the middle of our writing, we simply had surname and year. Now, here we have every single detail, including the name of the journal, the volume, the number, and the pages. Let's move briefly to assignment 2. Assignment 2 is structured as a report, and it aims to answer those questions from the case study. So in fact, those questions or part thereof may indeed form your headings or subheadings for the report. But this is something that can be discussed later in class and with your lecturers and tutors. As we said, assignment 1 is finding information that can solve the case study questions, whereas assignment 2 is trying to answer those case study questions. Assignment 2 may use the research from assignment 1, but it will be using even more research. You may find that one journal article you sourced can answer many questions. That's fine. However, it might also be the case that you need many journal articles to answer one question or one aspect of the case. So your reference list may be quite long. That's a good thing, to have a long reference list with a lot of research that you have used within the body of your writing. So assignment 2 requires even more research than you've already done in assignment 1. And as all reports do, assignment 2 is going to conclude with recommendations for this company. What it should do, what it shouldn't do, what it should be aware of, something very practical. Your course coordinator has seen these slides, and he would also like to remind you that this slideshow is not to supersede the instructions and the details for this task. You've seen them already, I'm sure, and you've read them already, I'm sure. They're available on Moodle, they're available in your course profile. As mentioned previously, you must read this task. What are the tasks asking you to do? There will be specific instructions there that you must follow in order to receive the marks you expect. As per all assessment, any questions of details, for example, should I use 2 paragraphs or 1? How long should each entry be? What is the exception for the word count because I'm way over? We know generally it's plus or minus 10%, but these kind of questions should be directed to your course coordinator. You can do that via Moodle. You can ask your teaching staff. Unfortunately, we can't answer you back in this slideshow, but your teaching staff certainly can, so please ask them any specific questions you may have. Okay, we mentioned already the Harvard Referencing Guide, which is available online. There's also a short YouTube video which has been made to help CQUniversity students and gives samples and examples of how to deal with a website and a journal article and the most common sources. There's one extra resource available to you which I'd like to show you. It's been made by the library and it's here under useful links in LibGuides or LibGuides, assignment help. Let's click here. IT. So your course is here, SMO, Systems Management Overview. Let's click on that. There's quite a bit of help here as well. Dealing with this assignment, giving you steps, how can you devise your research plan, again looking at those keywords to search for your information, giving you further information about your sources, and this is updated. So we can see here at least 6 credible references, at least 3 academic, 3 could be from industry, could be websites. Okay, so there's specific information here and some writing and referencing help here. So do have a look at that for this and for other courses. I'm from the ALC, and ALC is online. You can access it through Moodle. There's a lot of other resources and help available there for your writing and also in terms of computing, mathematics and science. So you can book an online appointment there. You can ask for some feedback to see if your assessment has matched the criteria. And as I said, there's also a lot of online resources, so you should definitely check out the ALC Moodle site. If you are here in Sydney, please come and see us on level 1. You can phone us. If you're not here in Sydney, please use the ALC. Even if you are in Sydney, please use the ALC. The email address is detailed here. Also, you can access through Moodle. So there are staff here to support you with this and with other assignments. Finally, good luck in task 1 and task 2. Hopefully you feel less like that cartoon on the first slide. If you need further assistance, please do ask. If you have a question, please ask it via Moodle. If you're still not sure, please ask again. And finally, good luck with this assessment and good luck with your studies. Bye.